Today's topic is going to be something a little out there, something I actually searched on YouTube, and nobody's ever really talked about it. They might have talked about one little facet or something, but nobody's really even broached the subject. And I just thought it'd be something kind of fun, something kind of interesting. Hopefully we'll learn something. But today, we're going to talk about aquarium nets. All right, well, in my fish room, I have all sorts of nets, and every single one of these nets actually serves an entirely different purpose. Now, most people just think that they're just nets, it's just for catching fish. No, there's all sorts of other things. They're probably one of the most useful tools you have in your fish room, but you really know what all the benefits and purposes are behind why there's so many different kinds? Let's get into it. So I'm sure you're like me, you've probably spent absolute hours in the pet store trying to choose the right net, right? No. Everyone just grabs a net. Now, most of the nets you're going to find in the aquarium trade, they're usually about like this. They're usually a green, sometimes they're blue, doesn't really matter, sometimes they're black. But the main important thing is to look at that style of net. It's got a good sized basket, it's got a medium sized handle. They come in longer handles, we'll get into that in a minute. But this is kind of the main standard net that you see everywhere, everybody uses. And this is good for almost all purposes. Now, the most important thing that you want to do is you want to try and find a net that's going to be at least an inch or two bigger in size than your fish that you're in question you're going to be keeping. So yeah, it's important. You should have a diversity, a selection of nets if you're going to keep a large fish room like myself. Now, there are other nets that you'll see out there. There's these ones here. So these are both made by the same manufacturer, but this one, if you look at the density or the size of the holes in the mesh and compare it to something like this is decidedly a finer net. And the purpose behind this net is that it's very soft. So this is good for species that are scaleless, softer fish, but sometimes a lot of fish will get caught in it, particularly some of the different smaller catfish. So you got to be careful. Ever tried bagging autos with one of these? They get caught on everything. But this is a much softer net. Now, regardless what kind of net you're going to use, one of the absolute most important things to do is never use a dry net. Nobody likes going in dry. And there's all sorts of manufacturers. Everywhere you go, every store you go could have a different style of net. Like, for example, this one here. This one I used to really, really like. Had a really deep basket. It was kind of a softer mesh, but it still is a fairly coarse mesh. So it was very, very good. The coarser the mesh, the bigger the holes, the faster it'll flow through the water in the aquarium. So if you're trying to catch elusive or very, very darty fish using a soft net, you're going to struggle. The one thing that was neat about this one is it's broken now, but it used to have a little latch here, and it's a telescoping lens, or a telescoping net. But I've had it for probably 2 decades, maybe 3 decades, and it's finely fused. The reason I say that finally is that this thing used to tend to spin around when I was catching fish. So it didn't really have a really good tight grip when you closed it in place. But it gave you the ability to extend it twice its length. So this net was really, really cool, but it did have one kind of failing feature. The one thing that I do love about this net is that you look at any style of these type of nets, the old school nets, the very bread and butter nets, you know, the net is completely exposed. You see in the corner there how the net is not completely on the corner? That means that's a wear point. So every time you drag that net against the sand or a rock or gravel or anything in your aquarium, that little spot starts to wear and then that hole gets bigger. This net is completely protected from all that sort of stuff by this nice rougher material. Well, it's not really rough. It's soft to the touch, but it's a durable material that protects the net. So unless I'm going to catch something like a big catfish or a piranha or something like that, they'll actually put holes in the actual physical net. This net may last a lot longer for a few dollars more than, say, that green or blue net. Here's another example. This is one from the good people over at Python Pet Products, made in the USA. Now, this is a product that they designed. It's a hoop and it goes in, I believe it's buoyant. I believe this net floats, which is a really, really nice touch. And the other thing that they did is they folded their net over top and made like a basket stitch. So they've got a good full-on type. They've got a nice deep basket for catching fish, but it's also kind of protects the edge a little bit better. And it's got a little bit of give. It's not overly tight on the thing. So another neat product from the people at Python. It's got a nice little loop and it floats in your tank. Cool, cool net. Now, all sorts of other nets that are out there. Some are a bit more, shall we say, specialty nets. You might see these type of nets in the pet stores. This net here is used for really one main purpose, is what it was designed for. It's a much, much finer net. It's fine almost like women's stockings, like nylons or something. You can barely see through it. And this is designed mainly for when you're hatching live brine shrimp and you want to sift the nopali out of the water, out of the solution, to be able to feed your fish. So this is a brine shrimp net, but if you have a betta or any of those type of softer fish, this is also an ideal net for keeping those type of things too, because it's soft. It's got a nice deep basket. It's a little bit bigger than a betta would be. This would work absolutely ideal. But I don't think I'd want to be trying to catch around fish in a 160-gallon tank using something like this. One of the other specialty nets that have come out a lot more recently, they're very economical, they're easy to get, and they're fully telescoping. So I've gone and taken, about a 7-8 inch net and turned it into about a 2-foot net, but the basket size and the actual size of the net has not changed. And what this net is primarily designed for is catching and moving shrimp. It's easy to work with, it's lightweight, it's got a nice hook for hanging on the back, it's got a nice deep basket with a fairly soft, even though slightly coarse mesh like that other black one I was showing you. Now taking it even one step further, these are nets that are custom made. This is made by an individual in Florida that services and manufactures aquarium nets made for the fish farmers, and these things are built to last. I've had this for at least 20 years now, and there's not a mark on it. It's solid stainless steel, it's all welded, and the basket is completely covered by this rigid shield. So I could drag this on rocks. I've taken this collecting. I've been out in the field. This thing is absolutely awesome. But the really cool thing is the actual dimensions are designed exactly to fit a 10-gallon aquarium. So when you go to say a show and you want to take that one fish out, this fits in perfectly to the sides of the 10-gallon aquarium, and when I pull it through, there's no chance of escape for the fish. That means a lot less chance of damage to the fish. Every time you're going to be moving a fish using any kind of net, you always risk damaging a fish. That's why we talked about making it so important that you always use your nets, and they have to be wet. Making sure that the net is wet will reduce the abrasions on a fish. Using a softer net, depending on the fish, will also greatly reduce the abrasions. My main go-to nets are generally the white ones, even though I have bigger fish. I like the aspect that they're much softer on the fish. They tend to cause a lot less stress for the fish, less abrasion to the fish. It means better health for the fish. However, if you're trying to catch fish that are elusive or speedy, I very strongly recommend 2 nets. The reason being is one becomes the catcher, one becomes the chaser. And by using this one, I could strategically set this one up in the aquarium in a certain spot with one side against the wall, one side against the substrate, and then I can use the other net to wrangle the fish and direct the fish into here. And once I direct him into there, then I can then close it against the front glass, and then I can bring the fish up safely. So using 2 nets often makes it a lot easier. Now, one net that's been out in the trade probably about 10 years now. I remember seeing it the first time it came out. It made me giggle, but the net is still there. It's still sold by the thousands worldwide, and people just don't understand. And it's this one here. It's a net. It's called the infrared net. It's made by a company called Penplex. It's a quick net. It's because you can see the net, but the fish can't. What? Now, let's give them credit, okay? One, this is a longer handle, so this is meant for a slightly deeper tank, so it works good in compared to some of those other ones. So you should make sure that the handle of the net also makes sure that your hand's not halfway into the tank. So again, a good purpose of having many assorted different types of nets. But this particular one says it's an 8-inch net, came in all sorts of sizes, but I had to order this one off Amazon to do this video just because I just thought it was too funny. And the fish can't see it. Now, in their defense, they're right. The fish cannot see. Fish do not see in color, so the fish do not see this net. If I put it against my Seagrass shirt, it's invisible. You can't see nothing. See, catch all the fish, but you can't see it. They can't see it, but they can't see it. True. However, fish do not need to see the net to know that the net exists, to know that the net is in their environment, to know that you're there in their environment. Because fish do not necessarily need to see it. They sense it. And how do they sense it? They sense it through their lateral line. Let's talk about that. Now, many of you know me through the world of cichlids. It's an absolutely fascinating assemblage of fishes, an incredible family of the family Cichlidae, and most of the fish in the tank behind me are in fact cichlids. We've got the Dankilia, which come all the way from Eastern Africa. We've got the Gobia cichlid urbani blue lips. We've got those Hemichromis exol, and then there's also the Sciatocranus casuarius. Super fancy Latin namespace. We're so impressed. No, not the purpose. But every cichlid, one of the defining traits of a cichlid is the fact that it has a bisected lateral line. all fish have a lateral line. And basically the lateral line to really bring it down for everybody, so everybody's on the same playing field. You and I, if we want to touch something like those nets, we can touch things. I can touch this glass and feel that it's hard. I can feel this and feel that it's roughed. I can feel cloth and feel that it's soft. Fish don't do that. Fishes use their sensory system in this lateral line, and it's basically an extension of nerve endings that basically go all out into the edge of the fish, and they have these small little pores that run down the body of the fish, and it senses all sorts of things that are in their environment. So you ever notice that when you don't do this, I don't recommend ever doing this, but you see this at a public aquarium, and then fish generally dart? It's because they're startled, because that little action of knocking, it's not the sound, it's the sound waves, and the movement that's going to go through that becomes very startling to fish because it hits this lateral line, and it's like, whoa, what happened? They have no idea. It's like a lightning strike to them. So that's why it's very, very important to understand that this is how the fish sense in their environment and how they work. So we don't want to nod and startle the fish, but the minute that I walk into this fish room, the vibrations of my steps are going to carry through the room, and the fish already know that I'm here. The minute then I'm going to start moving the glass lids, and then I'm going to go ahead and stick a net in the tank, they already know what's happening. They already know that there's something in the environment and they don't want it. They don't know what it is. It's an unsure. They don't want to have anything to do with it. So again, that's another factor of using two nets when you're trying to work with fish catching fish. But the fact that this net is sold because the fish won't see it just is absolutely laughable to me. Yes, that's true, but they know that this net is here. And this net won't work any different than this net. Unless you like the color red, this doesn't make a single difference in your environment. I just think it's hilarious marketing, though. What do you guys think? So, as you guys see, I got all sorts of types of nets. I got nice coarse nets with deep baskets for catching big fish. They got protected edges. I've got nice soft nets, which is my primary go-to. The softer the net, the better for the fish. I've not even used a net for catching fish. I've used things like buckets and nice clear tubs with smooth edges for transferring fish from one tank to another, particularly if you're a showman and you want to show tropical fish, because all it could take is one little split fin or one dislodged scale and your fish is no longer in the running. Little novelty type ones. The only thing I don't like about this one is it doesn't have, now the rounded edges on here also give it that a little bit added protection, but it also gives a point of escape where I can't get really tight into a corner. And if you've ever caught any fish in your life, which I'm sure you have if you're watching this, you know that most of the fish are going to find a way to escape. But it's a very, very unique design, and the fact that it floats, it's a very good quality net. And then again, our go-to, our red and our green, our fancy brine shrimp net. You guys saw the beautiful little telescoping shrimp net. It's just an ordinary net. It's just very, very diminutive. So you can use it for shrimp. You can use it for transferring all those little nano fish out of your nano tank. And then the real high-end custom-made nets. Now, there's all sorts of other nets that I do have in my arsenal. I have nets for going out and collecting, big telescopic nets for collecting. I've got pond nets. They all serve a purpose. But hopefully you guys had some fun with that. I had some fun with it. It's not a topic I ever thought I would ever cover, but at least hopefully I'll learn something together, and you guys will choose the best net for your purpose. Thanks for watching, my friends. Take care.